Hey everyone, this is Josh.
And Trevor.
And Jack. We're Roll Havoc, and this is Gain Inspiration.
Gain inspiration. I love it because you actually put those in there. I actually get to hear it like
no, this is going to be the segment now. I'm sorry, we are in the segment.
No, you're going to replace that with music, right?
No, we made the guitar noises.
Awesome.
That's the intro. Today, we're going to talk about Mass Effect, which is an odd thing to say on a tabletop RPG podcast. But the funny thing is that Trevor and I are both huge Mass Effect fans. We've played all the Mass Effect games, and Josh just fucking loves tabletop RPGs.
I'm a consummate D20 on a tabletop player. You know me. I was like, a new set of mechanics. Interesting.
Sci-fi, you say? I remember him saying exactly like that.
Yeah. Sci-fi, you say? Lasers, you say?
The N7.world Mass Effect reskin is just top tier.
It works really well for 5th edition. I feel like it really does. It's got its own set of species that replace fantasy races. You have its own classes. You don't have like your traditional classes like fighter, wizard, all that stuff. You have the infiltrator, the vanguard, the sentinel, soldier. Like you actually have the Mass Effect archetypes. And so that works really well if you're in favor of making it just feel like it feels like Mass Effect. In that way. There are no spell lists per se. All the spells are reskins of other abilities from across Dungeons and Dragons. And so, but they also added some really cool mechanics in there as far as like priming and detonating off of abilities. So for this campaign, like going into this knowing it's going to feel like Mass Effect, Josh and I had no real conversations before we jumped in.
Yeah.
We literally were just like, let's just make our characters separate and then make Trevor roll with it. And then we came up with some fucking fantastic backstories. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, I feel they're pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and they feel very on flavor for the world. You know, you could have, for Josh, who was your first ever introduction to the Mass Effect setting, right?
I believe I played for about 20 minutes Mass Effect 3 because a friend of mine had told me it was really good and I should play it, and I hate those types of games where there's a lot of talking, so there was the option to like play it in like the most aggressive mode or whatever it is, the most fighting, and that was still not enough fighting for me. So I was still like, oh, tried it, I can tell him I tried it, and I went back to playing something that I was just mindlessly violent or something.
Probably Darksiders. I remember.
Yeah, Darksiders.
It was Darksiders.
It was Darksiders.
Great game.
Yeah, they're good. They're great. They're great for sure. So we came up with these outlaws in the Mass Effect series. I made a Turian infiltrator who's a sniper, an ex-Spectre type of character. His name's Savius Rokanar. We started at level 3? Yeah, we started at level 3. And it's just been working out fucking great playing this infiltrator because he's kind of seedy. He's been working as like a bouncer on Omega. He's got like a undercover identity going on because he's being hunted by specters and stuff, but he's like on the lam. That's a lot of stuff for a level 3 character, but we're rolling with it really well.
I mean, like experience doesn't necessarily equate to experience.
I see what you did there. That was good.
Yeah. Well, experienced players will understand what I said there.
I'm doing what's called a pro gamer move.
Watch me work.
Yeah. And then the other character that we're running around with his
name is Jorgel Kroon. So he's a sentinel, but from what I understood only after the fact, he's a Krogan, and that's weird. Yeah,
we're rolling with it though. I fucking love it though. Like a Krogan with biotics.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of, but they are very rare.
It is if you read the rules, it is a tool-based connection to the biotics. So if they were going to go one way, it makes the most sense to go that way because it's like a technological upgrade basically in a different way.
Sense.
But I remember, so you found me frozen basically in Carbonite.
Yeah.
And I remember because there was such a long time from when we incepted these characters to when we actually played that I took a lot of time and I read like the history of Krogans and what their deal was. The thing is that I had just forgotten all of it by the time we played, but I did research to make sense about why he was somehow sent far away before anything happened that you'd known of, and they can live an indefinite amount of time. It's like, so yeah, I'm really old. I'm from a universe that doesn't even really exist anymore.
But it was like he was frozen in his prime, so it's not like he's really that old. But by the Krogan mentality, it's like, well, he comes from another time. He's technically 10,000 years old or something like that.
Yeah, it's basically that. He's really only around like a few hundred, and in all honesty. But yeah, he's from a time long ago, and I didn't realize it was kind of like odd for the Mass Effect galaxy. But it also made a lot of sense for him to be the character that I made him with, because you gave me the system that was more crunchier than 5th edition, and someone didn't expect me to like min-max like a little bit, like, I'm like, have you seen what a Krogan is?
I remember
it's a monster.
It was like literally over a year ago. It was literally over a year before we started playing this game, where I think we had it had to be longer because I was in Denver.
Because I was living in downtown Burbank. I hadn't even gotten my apartment yet. I was still subletting when I incepted this game, but then life happened. I had to move the time slots. We were still in the Eberron campaign at the very end. Yeah. We went into the Theros campaign. And then by the time we got around to 19.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a long period of time.
But it gave me, first of all, the rules changed so much. Like, first, where I had the idea and discovered the thing, was like, oh, I should run. And with that, some of the rules for the Krogans changed significantly, but they didn't make sense the way they changed. So I let Josh keep the old rules.
Very,
they made more sense to me as a DM for
wasn't it rapid healing that they get?
No, it was like they had natural toughness. Instead, they basically rated all of these species to have like a base armor. If they were like one of those tough species, instead of doing anything with hit points. So we just kept that. You still gave me the headbutt that they gave it to him, but it wasn't just that. Like the Sentinel class was even changed what their casting stat was between when I made the character and when we played the character. And I only found it out later, and I was like, have I been cheating this whole time? I've been doing this wrong? And I was like, no, they swapped the rules on me.
They changed the rules.
So we just kept it that way anyways.
So naturally you pick the character that's like, all right, we're going to take advantage of some of this crunchiness. And I'm just like, no, I want to play the loner sniper. I just want to do one thing really well. And it's just like, and I want to play a Turian. And so it's just like, this is the one thing I know that they can do really well. And that is shoot stuff.
And
the whole military society, the whole militaristic society of Turians was really cool. I felt like, as far as like the backstory for a species that would be the first people that humans encounter, is like, oh, we found someone more militaristic than us, and guess what we did? We picked a fight with them. And so I was like, I always thought it'd be really cool to play a Turian. So we have these two characters set up in the Mass Effect universe just after the events of Mass Effect 2, I believe.
Yep, just after the events of Mass Effect 2.
Yeah. So at this point, we have these two characters in Omega who have been brought there because Savius, my Turian, he was a bouncer for some club there, and we're both kind of on the run trying to figure out what our next move is. And then Trevor introduced the first hook of the game was a ship of Batarians had kidnapped some Solarians, and we're like pretty much trading them into slavery and stuff. And we're just like, well, that sounds like a Robin Hood type of situation right there we could take advantage of. And so we were going to go save the Solarians and route the Batarians to take their stuff. And so that was like adventure number 1. That was really fun.
I remember felt like I still didn't know what my character was. Like, and I was, because we'd come back, I was like, I completely forgot.
And Trevor had given us, we didn't realize how much, like, we kind of forgotten like how much like stuff Trevor had given us. He was like, here, take this many credits. And I got like the most powerful sniper rifle in the game.
No armor when I can get the most powerful sniper rifle, right?
Yep.
I got the best armor you could get for the money at the time.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah.
I got a Black Widow sniper rifle, and it's just like it does 2d12 when it hits. And it's like, guess what? I'm a rogue. I'm an infiltrator. So like I get the tactical cloak, and it's just like I'm never not going to have advantage because Turians also get an ability that gives them advantage on attack rolls when they have an ally next to their target. So it's like I get flanking if you're right next to him.
Even if I'm far away, yeah.
Even if I'm far away, yeah. If you're right next to him, I got him in my sights.
I gave you guys the option to recruit crew members as well to help you with your escapades. I gave you guys like a looking for crew board.
And that's been really cool. Yeah, we got some really cool options out of that.
Mm-hmm. In fact, we doubled up basically on the amount of Krogans we had to make it so that combat was even more difficult for Trevor to figure.
You know what's better than one Krogan? You ever had two Krogans?
3 Krogans?
I want two. Yes, you want the party with 2 Krogans. And then we also had Vorcha,
Grill,
like the space goblin race.
Cancer goblins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also had a Solarian engineer, Emerin Solas, who is just like really capable at everything we need for ship stuff and engineering and things. So it's really cool.
I mean, he gave us a nice light ship's crew.
Good spread.
Everything
Good
we
spread.
needed, because we didn't pick any of the skills or abilities to actually like do any of these things.
We
need
did.
to be able to do.
I didn't realize until later on that I could. And so I actually ended up picking up something. So it worked out that way.
That's right. I have starship weapons now.
Yep. So some other really cool things about this campaign setting. The rule set is it feels very Mass Effect. If you go to
N7.world.
N7.world, yeah, it's got a really cool integration with 5th edition. It feels a little overpowered in some aspects because of like I said, I have a sniper rifle that shoots for 2d12 radiant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, 2d12 Pearson, right? All of the classes get really cool abilities that allow you to like push things around. They have like the tactical cloak, and even later on, we brought in our friend Daniel to play with us, and he rolled up a character who is a
Geth Juggernaut.
Geth Juggernaut.
A big robot.
Big ass robot. That's his name. Actually, that's not his name, but we might as well add it on. His name is Unit 9. It's
Absolute Unit 9. It's Deathbot Absolute Unit 9.
It's AUDB 9. It's Absolute Unit Deathbot 9. It's fantastic.
And he took a feat to turn himself invisible, so make himself scary.
Yep. And so we've had some really cool adventures since then. We chased down the Solarians, we freed them, took them back to another planet, and we're hearing rumors of a Mass Effect related to another galaxy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also have the ship that we procured. We have the base that we procured, and it's just been moving along really well.
We've actually had 2 levels of ships by now. The third or second ship.
We've actually
our first ship was awful.
The first one was calling it a ship is very generous, considering it makes the Millennium Falcon look like a showroom prize ship.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's it's very interesting because you don't see a lot of the expanded stuff about Mass Effect in the games. So it's really cool to play this like, all right, no, like we're playing like space pirates in a way. The way that we're doing things is like, no, we're targeting people who deserve to be targeted, and we're taking their stuff, and we're doing really cool stuff with it. And we're just opportunistic as hell. And it's great because it's like, no, like this isn't Commander Shepard saving the universe from the Reapers. This is us like having fun and dicking around in the Mass Effect universe. So we have a lot of instances that come up where it's like, okay, this feels kind of like this would be like a Han Solo type story, or like I reference Cowboy Bebop because it's just like I kind of want that feel where it's just like, no, we're taking jobs for like the money with like very skewed morals. And so it's got that like a slicker sci-fi feel to it than Mass Effect. I feel
it is Cowboy Bebop in the Mass Effect universe. Like just because it's not like standard heroic strategy doesn't mean that it's not like there wasn't like 2 idiots doing this in the background.
or like we were cobbling together like a Firefly type situation. No, it's cool. It's working out.
So one of the other big changes to combat, Sean was mentioning earlier, classes were felt overpowered. One of the biggest changes is every armor piece has a shield that regenerates if you don't take damage for a round at a certain amount, which is super hard to deal with as a DM, even though most of the NPC enemy mobs have this. it makes combat much more tactical, because like in Mass Effect, you have to take cover, let your shields regenerate. It's not just pew 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 and then it's over. You got enemies hiding behind walls for a couple of turns, letting their shields regenerate or whatever. And so it's coming from a fantasy game to the Mass Effect tabletop is a much different.
You don't have a lot of firefights necessarily in Dungeons and Dragons. You have a lot
to
of
run this campaign.
Yeah, it takes a lot where it's like, okay, every character has like a ranged weapon. At least half of the characters are going to be ranged focused, and usually it's like in a fantasy setting you might have like a couple of people who are in the back, but most people are going to be up front at some point. But we ended up like, no, this is guns, this is grenades. It's a very different style of combat. We have death bots with laser shotguns.
I think like I've really gravitated to the combat because I guess in college I actually played a lot of like D20 Modern and actually some D20 Future, and so it just felt very familiar to me, like it was like sliding back into at least a mindset correct for it. So because that's why I was like, I even bought grenades with the starting wealth. I was like, oh, these are going to be used.
Yeah.
Like, trust
explosives, me. AoEs at a low level are OP.
I'm just making myself into a caster that threw money. I just throw money at problems instead.
And you guys also just come up with some of the wildest challenges for me as a DM. You took this tiny hyper-powered Mass Effect core, and instead of using it to upgrade a ship like I had imagined you would do or expected you guys to do, you used it to power a single cannon shot to wipe out a hallway of enemies.
How else do you take over a base? You shoot it with a big gun.
A big gun.
A big fucking gun. And almost kill the sniper in the process.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Poor planning.
That was fine. Metagels take care of that.
We couldn't see you.
It's fine.
You were invisible. How are we supposed
Something
to
else that's come up that's really cool. Trevor has reskinned and repurposed displacer beasts. And you don't see a lot of creature enemies per se in the Mass Effect universe. It's almost always like firefights with other humanoids. So Trevor actually put in a modified displacer beast that we call
Dispacer beasts.
Dysphaser beasts.
No, I say dispacer beasts.
Dispacer beasts. That's excellent. Yeah, that's good.
I called them phase beasts.
Yeah, that's what
I took away some of their stuff and changed it to resistances to damage so that they would stick around a little bit more, so they had resistances to physical damage because they would phase through it, like they would phase through attacks to minimize their damage. I was really proud of that because there's like 2 or 3 fights in every Mass Effect game where it's against like monstrous enemies, but it always left me wanting more because you see all these other monstrous alien races that you never fight.
It's a giant galaxy. Like I want to see more of the weird shit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
There's like no way that there's not just some gigantic monsters on some random planet that are just like, was that your spaceship? Yum.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's one of the neat things I like about this setting is that this as a tabletop RPG, what I really like about it is that we don't get to explore sci-fi very often. And so between the 3 of us, me, Trevor, and Daniel, who have played Mass Effect, and then also Joshua, who's just loves sci-fi, it's just a really cool intersection for us to like play on because we don't get to do it very often. We're mostly talking about, like, let's be honest, like magic and D&D most of the time. But jumping into sci-fi is just such a great thing.
Just being because it's the same thing that D&D uses, right? There's this whole litany of fantasy like novels and just genre that you can draw ideas from, and then once you switch over to sci-fi, now we have this entire like the whole section of entertainment basically that we know all is from kids all the way up to adults that we can draw inspiration from. Yep. And and I think it's why it feels like it's a bit different playing it in that way, and that like I kind of like it when it feels like a video game because that makes it makes sense. It's doing its job.
On that note, I tried to incorporate with this most recent session that we have run, I tried to incorporate the space navigation into the campaign.
Yeah.
And going to explore planets. You guys, I wasn't expecting you guys to jump on it right away, but you did. And so
It was really cool. No, I actually really appreciated that because it definitely solidified that Mass Effect vibe for us, because you gave us clusters to dive into and gave us ways to check for resources, but also like you're giving us adventure hooks in them too, which is really cool. So it definitely, it feels very Mass Effect, and that's pretty awesome. The ship moves around the map and everything. It's pretty good.
It was like a video game that I didn't have the tutorial for, because it was like looking at what you, as you were like writing the handout down, I was like, we have probe. Okay, we just said a probe. What does a probe do?
And we're like, we have to figure that out first. We haven't done it before. I'm on the same page. I don't know.
there's a whole, I literally just made up a bunch of that stuff on the fly, because one, I was expecting it to be you guys to do more before you jumped right into that mission. And so I would have time to look into the rule set, but also I recently played through, like right before we launched this campaign, I played through Mass Effect, I think 2. I played through it 4 times back to back, doing different builds and stuff just to get a feel for how characters.
On top of the dozen other times you've played it, right?
Right. And so I really wanted to make sure I was giving you guys that authentic Mass Effect feel, because it feels so good. But Josh was talking about drawing from other sci-fi and stuff. Originally, the big plot hook was the Geth outside of the dimension, outside of the main Mass Effect galaxy, had a planet where they were conducting research to be more humanoid-like traits to blend in with the other races. I was pulling it from Stargate and the replicators from Stargate, but then thinking about it more recently, it was closer to the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. You know, it fit a little bit better because they were already humanoid before, and then now they were trying to blend in and infiltrate the other races. And while I'm not super familiar with Battlestar Galactica, motivation for the Geth in my mind for this was they just wanted to be accepted like the other races were accepted. They were tired of fighting to have a place to call home, whether or not it's for the good of the galaxy or whatever. That's the story that I'm trying to tell with this. And I couldn't tell it if I didn't have that other sci-fi knowledge to draw from.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like we've already mentioned like influences from Cowboy Bebop and just all of that other sci-fi that kind of has the same kind of pull to it. You can do it in just any type of space travel and any type of space magic with the biotics and stuff. It's really cool. I think it's definitely one of my favorite campaigns that we've played in a long time, and I'm really happy that we've got us and Daniel in on it. I think it's just like, it's a good mix for that party for sure.
Having Daniel in there, it feels so good. He's too quiet though. We need to get him.
Oh, but when he delivers his lines though. He's
good at one-liners. He's a robot, so it kind of makes sense.
Well, he picked he's playing a Geth who picked the deception skill. It's just like, no, it's one of his humanoid trait that he's developing. And it's just like, he's really bad at it, but it's hilarious. So we just roll with it. It was great. Cool. Well, I'm really glad we got together to talk about Mass Effect today, because I'm having a lot of fun playing it. I know you guys are as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we'll have another chance to talk about it and chat about updates as the campaign goes on. We're just hit level 4 and we've already done so much. I honestly think we're going to hit level 5 soon. Hint, hint.
Hint. Oh, without a doubt. It's coming.
Yeah.
I've got plans. Don't you worry.
Yeah. But thanks everyone for listening to Roll Havoc. We've had a great time talking today. We hope you had a great time listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.